Hello, and welcome to New Meta. We're a Dota 2 podcast. I am your host, Stan, otherwise known as TheMagicT, back after a long journey in the high mountains. Back to host some Dotes, feels good. Back to pick up the pieces after a dreadful, decaying week. No, I only kid. But the original crew is back. So joining me, Marco and Adam. Marco? Happy that the OG crew's back. Good episodes in the bag from last week. I enjoyed listening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. We had a great time without you, Stan. But it's also great to see you back, not going to lie.
Yeah, I know. Adam, likewise. How are you?
Good. I wouldn't say we had a great time. I think I said in the pod that you are the glue that holds us together.
Adam, shut up.
Without a host, we are a ship without a captain.
No, on a serious note, shout out to I don't know what, because guest Nick, Joe, I feel like there's maybe only room for one guest. Joe might be friend Joe, guest Joe. What are we thinking?
Friend
we need to
Joe,
think of it.
Brother Joe.
Brother Joe, that's a great one, yeah, okay. Yeah, shout out to Brother Joe for the sick host last week. I finally got to experience an episode from a listener perspective. I was refreshing my podcast feed on Friday. I was so excited. I was like, what's this episode going to be? Yeah, I finally got to feel it on the other side rather than tracing through it on the editing perspective. So that was pretty pog. Enjoyed that one.
Still waiting on Marco to upload the YouTube version. In due time.
I need to sort your Ember Spirit game out. Get that posted with it.
So, weeks in Dota, obviously mine's been quite lax. I know Marco's been similar, both been very busy, but I don't know if everyone's got anything that they've learned or anything to report from the last week. Marco, have you got anything?
Can we start with Adam?
Yeah, sure. Start with whoever.
I didn't get to play too much because of Easter weekend. So I went home, and it's like, when I go home, I take a laptop. I don't like playing on the laptop, but sometimes you just got to get in a couple dotes, you know?
Yeah.
So I played with Nick. Didn't go too well. But I guess I plug Robot Vice, who's PPD's brother, came out with a pretty good techies guide, YouTube guide. So check that out.
Cool.
Yeah, doesn't he do a lot of those?
He plays he plays techies is what he's known for, but he also does Earth Spirit and a couple other heroes. But he has a nice, succinct guide on like 4-position techies that transitions into carry at the end when you get to level 25. So pretty cool stuff. And he's also part of the reason why EG won that TI, right? Because PPD's brother grinded out the techies games, gave him that info for Owie later.
Love a good YouTube guide. Absolutely love a good YouTube guide. Although to be honest, in the last week, most people's techies YouTube guide is going to come from that like Bulldog party game that he put on YouTube where he played techies.
Mid techies with a Drow aura.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's pretty solid. I mean, it's kind of the same ideas, except Bulldog went immediately for the damage items, whereas Robot Vice, he goes like the Yule, Soul Yules, that Ags, and then once you hit 25 is when you go into like Mask of Madness and Deso or like AC or something like that. Whereas Bulldog just went like Deso and right away because he had the attack speed from Drow.
Sure. So yeah, this week's episode's talking about techies. Only joking. Put your pitchforks away, please. We're talking about funky supports, but we'll get there after Marco said what he's learned. And if you've learned anything, I mean, you haven't really been playing, much like me. We've been itching. We just got home basically after. Well, we stopped by the other day, but more or less just got in. Like 2 hours ago?
Yeah, I jumped straight into a few parties after like an Easter family weekend or whatever.
We were itching, yeah. Anything particular that you've learned or not, or any particular shout-outs?
Actually, I'm trying to think back to some YouTube videos we've watched in the absence of real Dota games.
maybe a shout out for level 25 Shadow Fiend with an arcane rune?
Oh yeah, that's to me feels a bit old since Thompson did it. But yeah, the arcane rune, Shadow Fiend taking down Rush. To be fair, if I hadn't learned that like a week ago or so, I wouldn't have done it in the game we played today.
Yeah, I'll say for my shout out, something I've learned. You can't searing chains a target that you don't have vision of. So if a hero is like right next to you but they're on a high ground and you can't see him and you press searing chains, it won't affect them. That's kind of weird. I wouldn't have thought that would be the case. I just thought it's an AoE around you regardless of vision.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, sorry.
I don't know the thought process behind it, you know? Surely there's some lore explanation.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I don't know what Ember's doing with the searing chain. Is he throwing a chains? Does he sort of hula hoop it out? Because it sort of feels like he does a little. He's not throwing it. He's got swords in his hands. So is he sort of just like he's sort
throwing
of like
out a whip or something?
Yeah, he's like thrusting it. He's thrusting some chains out. He probably can't do it up a high ground or something. I don't know. There'll be an explanation, I'm sure. So yeah, last word on last week's pod. I actually made an early return to England for the pod because I was high in the mountains and was planning to be there for a while. I'd been climbing one of the tallest peaks in Scotland, almost got all the way to the top. And just as I was kneeling down to talk to the thunder god himself, Zeus, about how to gain MMR and how to play perfect Dota and all the secrets of Valve and Ice Frog and all the rest of it, I was about to receive this holy information that I'd sought for so long. Chopper rolls past, helicopter, leaning out the windows, none other than Fruity himself on his private mega CEO helicopter. He says, "Stand, mate."
Jesus.
All right, this is like that's an Omega cut, actually.
Yeah.
All right, my Australian accent. I needed to practice in the mirror before this. Anyway, yeah, he says podcast is going to shit. He says podcast is going to shit. You better get your sorry ass back to save it. And so all of the high knowledge was ruined, and I had to rush back to England to host the pod. So yeah, that's why I'm here early.
So you never gained those tips about how to be PMA and
no, I was literally like 2 seconds away and then was rudely interrupted.
You were going to come down from the hill with the Dota 10 Commandments?
Yeah, I know. That was going to be that we were going to have a 2 weeks break while I assembled 10 holy commandments of Dota, presented them as the be-all, end-all guide to all things Dota, but unfortunately I was rudely interrupted. So yeah. Funky position fives. I think a good place to start on funky position fives is what makes a position 5, right? And we talk about position 4 as well a little bit, but what makes a hero good at being a support? I'll kick off by just saying I think spells, right? Spells that are strong at all stages of the game, whether they're kill spells or harass spells in the lane or just strong disable later in the game, you know, that you don't need gold to cast a stun, and that's what makes a lot of supports good. So they can operate without gold. I don't know if Marco, you want to expand on anything about what is it that makes a hero good at a good fit for the support role?
Yeah, okay, so typically you've got that idea of being able to provide disable and control just from your spell set. Is there any other? I think to me that's the big one. You think of classic supports being a Lion stunning and hexing, or a Bane controlling, or a Rasta controlling. It's often very much that case. And then I think a second tier or factor would be the enabling component. So you as the support, your skill set, and I guess sometimes your limited items enable your calls and the rest of your team to do work. Now you can think of like a CM with her aura, or you can think of Venge with auras, which are very much about enabling your team. So I think those two are the big factors.
Adam, is there anything else you think perhaps? What is it about a hero's kit that makes him good at support?
I think we kind of hit it. You want your spells to be relevant without having to be enabled by gold. Some supports can even get away without having XP, but generally pretty much everyone scales with XP to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that you don't need gold to make the spells worthwhile. Like, how, let's just say Medusa needs a lot of stats to make mana shield actually good. That should not be a good support.
Or heroes with crits and stuff like that.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Or if you're building them as a support, you're not going to go the spells anyways. You want to have some nice spells that are able to be used early, but also can be maintained. And of course, like Lion, I mean, yeah, he's good with like a blink hex, but he's not that he needs a blink. Ravage, or I guess Earthspike and Hex are good at level 1. So
yeah. Yep. And also some heroes that don't necessarily have spells that are extremely potent at all stages of the game and don't require gold to be enabled. Some heroes make good supports purely because they're incredible at trading in the lane. I'm thinking CK, when he had a stint before they nerfed his passive, he was just able to, I mean, he was played in the off lane mostly, but you saw a bunch of support CK as well, simply because he just traded so well and obviously had his stun, which does fit into the things that we've been talking about already. Supports, other funky supports that have made it their way into the meta, like Wraith King and Sven. They were nerfed out eventually, but they have these super low cooldown spells, but also they have spells that let them trade effectively. Warcry for Sven and the Lifesteal for Wraith King. Same could be said for Bane to a certain extent. Obviously, Brain Sap, incredible trading spell. Yeah. One of the funky supports we've seen be so prolific recently that it's not even particularly funky anymore is Abaddon.
Adam's brainchild.
Yeah, I was about to say, Adam, you predicted this. You didn't need a weird trip to the mountains to foresee this one. You actually called it when the patch notes came out. What is it? Do you want to run through basically what is it about Abaddon's kit that makes him a good fit as a 5, or what changed? What made him come into the 5 pool, as it were?
Yeah, this was one of my most proudest moments in Dota, to have read the patch notes and kind of ignored the high tier, like how would you say it? Just like the stuff that was really, I guess, right out front that people were catching on, and you read a little deeper and like, ooh, this could be good, and then it actually turned out to be good.
Yeah.
Plus, there was a recorded record of me saying that it was good and that I wanted to try it. So
yeah,
that was pretty sick. But yeah, so Abaddon, I've always loved Abaddon because I've always loved Aphotic Shield. I love strongest spells, so just the fact that you could length or shorten the amount of time that someone's stunned, or just outright counter somebody like a Bane, just take off Fiend Script or take off these really long special spells just with your W, right? Especially like a Batrider. I mean, you just like destroy a Batrider every stage of the game because you can take off Napalm stacks or take off
Lasso.
the Lasso. Yeah, so that spell was always really sick. Always really sick from even just like a carry or a support is his strongest spell. But then people, I felt like, always slept on Mistcoil. I always kind of liked to get a value point in the shield, and then I would kind of spam people with Mistcoil, but then they buffed it. And then I did a little quick math and was like, actually, this spell at level 1 has the same amount of damage output as Skywrath Mage Q at level 1 without being like an int hero or anything. So it's like, oh, that seems pretty strong. Maybe you can play, because we had already talked about Skywrath Mage 4, where you would just pump somebody full of Qs and then deny yourself to a tower and then TP back out. So it's like, that could have some advantage. And then where it gets even better comparatively to the Skywrath Mage Q is that maybe you can't kill the opponent, but you can dump a lot of heals into your core so that they can exist and hit creeps. And then the other thing is the fact that you can deny yourself with Mistcoil. So it's even better than having to run around, die to a tower, or kill yourself to the creeps. I mean, that's killing yourself to neutrals is even longer death timer than to the tower.
Yeah.
And with the denial, you're not even giving like the little bit of gold that Skywrath would give beforehand to everybody. So it's just like a lot of factors all together.
Yeah.
Kind of came together and made him good. And the fact that he's a 5, he's not really a 4 because he's not going to scale the same way that a Skywrath Mage does.
So would you say it's mostly the fact that it's twofold? He has a strong disable, which is a support, like we were mentioning earlier, spell that's high impact, no matter gold. And at all stages of the game, it's going to be high impact. I mean, if anything, even more high impact later. And also the fact that he's got incredible trading ability with the fact that he can just spam you down and deny himself. Like, you can't trade with someone who can kill themselves. So it's those are the most important things, right? Probably that's made him come into the 5. Those fit really nicely with the things that we were mentioning earlier about what makes a kit fit with support.
What I really like about Abba, or what I think is really strong about Abba, is that his spells, in terms of what you're leveling, progresses really nice through the game. So in the laning, you want to be maxing the Mistcoil. We've spoken about it's a great trade, great sustain. Even offensively, you can output quite a lot of damage with Mistcoil given its low cooldown. And then in the mid game, your value added starts to shift towards the Aphotic Shield more so, because it's such an amazing, I don't know what you call it, how you get rid of a disable.
Dispel.
It's such an amazing dispel.
Reverse disable.
Reverse disable, anti
and
control.
Enable, if you will.
It's unbelievable. But that, honestly, I mean, that spell, getting a disable like that off in fights, changes fights, and then you've still got your Q getting in there as well. So basically, I think his spell points progress super nicely, because sometimes you have supports where you need to kind of get levels in everything, or you're not that strong with only a couple spells. Like Jakiro, I feel his spell progression can be a bit awkward sometimes. Like, you really want to have 2 spells maxed, say, whereas Abaddon can have just 1 and then the next. But yeah, strong hero.
So are you trying to say that he's really nice to skill because Curse of Avernus is so bad you can just ignore it? So you can't make a mistake skilling him?
Kind of. That probably does help the world, that it's just very straightforward.
The curse is so good, though, later. When you're pushing towers and you proc on the towers and everyone gets bonus attack speed. But
Ooh,
you don't need that. You don't need that late. Like
Sam
early.
Doesn't know what spells do. Feels bad.
Yeah, that's the new Ice Frog way of balancing things, is where you make everything is just on the 4th hit, it does something. This is the new Abaddon thing. So you just hit something 4 times, and if it's a hero, it gets silenced. But then if it's a tower, everybody gets that bonus attack speed.
Do you not get bonus attack speed on heroes?
You do.
Yeah,
you do on heroes, but you can't silence a tower.
Do you reckon there was a guy at Valve or under Ice Frog's wing, and Ice Frog releases the patch notes early? He's like, guys, we're changing Curse of Avernus. It's going to be a procced passive where, much like Jingu Mastery, there's 4 hits, and then on the 4th it procs. Do you reckon that they were like, how are we going to do the tick thing? How are we going to visually represent that? Oh, I know. Guy put his hand up. He was like, let's just make it blue. Because, I mean, it's just Monkey Kings, but blue, right?
Yeah, it's just, there's a little bit of wispiness around it, but yeah, it's just blue-white.
I mean, it's like,
better than Slardar. Slardar doesn't even get to click on Slardar to see how many stacks he has of that.
That's a huge Slardar buff versus like Monkey King or Abaddon, where you see it over. But I guess it's different because it's 4 hits on the same target for Abba and Monkey, whereas Slardar, it's 4 on any, so it's sort of like a self buff. He should have it over his own head. Maybe
they think it hurts Slardar too much if the enemy can see when he's about to do a big bash hit, because to the best of my knowledge, there's no visual effect when he's got a bash hit lined up, right?
No, it's just a buff on his hero, like on the tooltip above his health.
Yeah.
It's Bash of the Deep.
What a spell name. Talking about the coloring, it's like how there are spells which are the exact same icon but with different colors, like a Cold Embrace and Overgrowth. And I'm sure DK shares a spell icon with someone else. A startup company.
Just back from the olden days.
Olden days.
What else about Abaddon is sick? He's got really sick talents. I know how I like to say that about every hero. But
oh, before we go into talents, can I just say one more point about spells?
Yes.
So I think one of the reasons he is really good is his ult is the ultimate enabling spell for him to then use spells, because it's this hard disable that you can get off and give yourself like invulnerability or whatever for some certain amount of time. It's this get out of jail card where you then can get your spells off once you've used your ult. So contrary to say other supports that boom, get slapped straight away or die too early and fail to use spells and therefore are just useless, Abaddon's got that little get out of jail card with his ult to then let him live and carry on using spells. And we all know that spells
although to be fair, relative to other supports, it's not like he has some massive spell that he needs to get off. So all his spells are quite spammable.
But
in that sense, I feel like to make Abba work as a 5, you're playing for the early game, right? It's like the old Chen. You need to be crushing your lane, probably. Because I can't imagine him he's got a strong disable on a low cooldown, which is obviously amazing.
Dispel.
Yeah.
Y'all keep saying disable.
Anti-disable, sorry. What did we call it? Reverse disable, yeah. So he's got a reverse disable on a low cooldown, which is nice.
Yeah.
But he's not a team fighting 5 as much as these others.
Yeah,
so
maybe he loves a skirmish.
Not in the classical sense. Yeah, he's a battle paladin. He just wants to spam spells. And then like if they go on you, it's really discouraging because he's got borrowed time. So it just makes space. I mean, and then a bat should never lasso you, or like a shackles from a shadow shaman. You're just like, oh, I'll pop borrowed time. You pop off the disable, and then you're out throwing Qs and Ws.
Yeah. He's a great classic new meta word coming up. He's a great brawler.
Yeah.
Because he's got low cooldown spells that have high impact, but he's also an incredible laner. Like I mentioned,
people sleep on the miscoil heal. It's huge. At levels, at max, it's like a mech on a 4.5 second cooldown to one target. You just meching someone over and over again.
Yeah. I can't be bothered to talk about his talents.
I just want to say he's the classic. He's got a XP talent at 10. That's
XP talent. GG.
That's the classic, thing to throw out there is this hero's got an XP talent, which means he scales sick into the late game. I mean, he gets to if he survives through a couple fights, you're like, how did this 5-position Abaddon turn in like he's level 18 all of a sudden? Oh, it's because he's got XP talent.
Yeah, so survive with an XP talent and get tomes, and you're going to be happy. Adam, Legion Commander.
Yeah.
This is a fun support. I mean, this is the kind of funky support I was hoping for when we did the topic. Because this one's kind of out there. You don't really see this one.
Yeah, this is the one. Now, admittedly, I only played it like twice, but I rate it. I really want to play it more. Legion Commander 5, because there was this time a couple like patches ago where the melee heroes, Sven, Brew, Axe, they were 5s, and Puppy picked Legion Commander a couple games, and I played it a couple games, and I'm not saying like it's not a bad one. You can't pick it all the time, but she's got really relevant spells. I know that she's the 10th most picked hero just in all of pubs. So I know we're all scarred by jungle Legion commanders or just like carry legions that don't do anything until they have like a blink blade mail or something. Don't have any dual damage, but this hero offers a lot outside of dual and like infinite scaling. However you want to.
It's another hero with a low cooldown reverse disable.
Yes. That's the big thing I think of as a Legion 5 is press the attack, because it's basically Abaddon shield, but instead of, I mean, they both strong dispel.
Yeah.
So you're getting rid of everything that you would get rid with shield, but instead of like soaking damage, you're healing. And then the big thing is the attack speed. And when it's maxed, you're giving 140 attack speed to a target. And I know there's plenty of heroes that will benefit from 140 attack speed. So even, yeah, or even, I don't know, position one like Drow, like normal heroes.
Yeah, I love the offensive angle to PTA, aka press the attack.
It's 300 heal and 140 attack speed. So sieging, it's great. Or just turning fights. I mean, popping off Batrider or Bane. Those are the ones I like to keep throwing out there because those are just wrecks the hero.
Yeah. Overwhelming odds as well. Cool spell. A lot of damage. Overwhelming odds is one of those where it's even as a 5, if you're especially if you're against illusions, that like it's one of the best anti-illusion spells.
It's just huge D push, which sometimes you just need D push in your lineup, and then sometimes when the enemy doesn't respect it and they're coming up into a tower sieging and they are all together, you're just like, oh, here's this mini echo slam of damage I just threw out onto all y'all. And if we were going to get into talents, she does have a bonus damage overwhelming odds talent that I think you would almost never get as a carry, but is actually really intriguing to get as a support legion because it's at level 15, it's plus 50 overwhelming odds hero damage, which makes it go up to 170 damage per hero. So that it scales pretty hard.
Shout on Legion Commander, maybe more so as a 5 than anything else. Quick shout out. I really like this hero against Naga Siren, and Naga Siren's a carry that's becoming more and more popular and has a really high win rate. I think 55% in Divine Plus. Overwhelming odds obviously is insanely good against Naga because of all the illusions, like Adam just said, mini Echo Slam, such things. The press the attack, incredibly good against Ensnare, which is a really long disable. If you can just press the attack someone out of it. They have move speed to kite away from all of the illusions, doing crazy Riptide damage, and obviously just stops the disable completely. And also duel, obviously position 5 Legion, duel, more of just like a disable, potentially self-sacrificing disable rather than a solo kill thing. But if you can even just ever get a duel off on the real Naga, that's going to give your team a really good chance to kill Naga during your duel duration if they can follow up with damage. So Legion's a hero I'd consider pretty strong against Naga.
Yeah, you can also purge off like Diffusal Blade slow.
Yeah,
which is pretty good. And it's just like what you said with duel. With Naga, she invariably always gets down to like 30% HP and then pops song. Yeah. And then skittles away. So like what
away?
Skitters
away.
Yeah, I meant to say skitters, but
even skitters, that's pretty cool.
Like,
I would have said like slithers or something.
Well, that's what Weaver does. He skitters away. He's a skitter bug.
Cool.
But yeah, so you just want to lock someone down. That's what duel is, and you're just going to hope that your team is going to put out the damage for you to get the duel damage eventually, and then you'll scale with that later. But it's just nice lockdown. It's about 4.5 seconds at level.
Yeah, 4.55.
4.75. Yeah, and then 5.5. So
4.75. Nice.
Yeah, so it's just good lockdown. It's great channel canceling or just getting rid of TPs, and yeah, it's a good spell.
I feel really sold on this LC5.
Well, then there's one more that I think is one of the biggest parts, is that you skill Moment of Courage level 1 and you run at the enemy support, and then they can't hit you. That's because she's a big beefy lady. I'm on DotA buff. I don't see her stat. She's got like, one sec. I'm gonna pull it up on
You have to so level 1 HP 720, armor 2, attack was that 61, 65.
330 move speed. 330 move speed.
Oh, so fast.
Too
yeah.
fast,
We just
God.
played a game against a Legion where we got kind of ran over by LC, and that was one of the things that stood out to me the most. This hero's rapid.
Yeah, she's just like stout shield, 330 move speed, run at somebody, moment proc on them, out heal what they're doing, and then they just have to run out of lane. So it's one of those things where you would stand basically on the opponent's side of the creeps and just zone somebody out. You know, they just like can't come up to the wave because this Legion's going to hit them. And also there's like a bit of a draft advantage that goes into her because they think, oh, okay, well, that's this Legion is going to be a core. And then that I don't think anybody respects the amount of damage she can do at level 1. They're like, why isn't this Legion not hitting creeps? Like, what's happening? And then
yeah. Another bonus about picking Legion Commander as a 5 is it lulls the enemy into a false sense of security because they invariably are going to think you're like some griefing jungle LC, and they're going to be like, game's in the bag. They're going to get their focus off the boil, as it were. And then, yeah, like you say, run at them with Moment of Courage or whatever. Easy dotes.
LC provides similar utility and anti-disable enabling support utility as well. And one of the triggering things about Abba is the cast range on his shield is so abysmal. So that's 500, whereas press the attack is 700, which can make a lot of difference. It's nearly 50% longer cast range.
Yeah,
so
that's
just one value point in that at all stages of the game as a support. Like if they've got loads of single target disable or just any kind of disable, and you can anti-nullify, get rid of it. Oof, value town.
Yeah,
purify it. That's what I was going after.
Anti-disabling support utility. What a great set of words.
And I'm going to hit the talents because you won't let. I will not be denied. She's got a 25% XP talent at 10, so she's already top tier.
I can imagine. Just sorry to butt in. Do you know when you've got that famous American guy on the stocks channel? Like the stereotypical American stocks, like this is going up, and I can imagine Adam.
Was it Kramer? Jim Kramer or something?
Jim Kramer, yeah. I can imagine Adam doing an equivalent for like Dota heroes and the talents they've got, and just like banging out all the talents of a hero in like 5 seconds.
So that's what I'm going to do.
Picture that in mind.
25% XP talent at 10, and then, I mean, I think if you're having a really great game, you can go like the physical damage, kind of be a core LC from 5, but we're doing all support vacuum here. So then you're going to go overwhelming odds damage at 15, and then you're going to go 35 move speed at 20 instead of the proc chance percentage on Moment of Courage, and then at level 25 AoE press the attack, which is a 350 AoE. So imagine Lion AoE Hex, but instead you're dispelling all of that and giving 300 health and 140 attack speed, and it's absurd. Late game, throw that on some siege creeps, double siege wave, they both get hit and they melt.
You're pushing fast in the late game when you're giving your creep wave AoE press the attack. Holy moly.
Yeah, it's really strong. You also give them wings, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and it sounds cool as well. Primary reason to
it gets really loud because I think it stacks with the number of things you hit. So it's like was it World Cup 2008? Vuvuzelas all over again.
Vuvuzelas.
Yeah.
Forever.
Very strong pitch. Legion Commander strong pitch on the 5 LC. Will be up.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to Phoenix.
Mate, you can't stop missing out on these puns.
Sorry. What do you want me to say? Icarus dive to Phoenix?
Let's dive into Phoenix or something. Come on.
Oh, let's dive into Phoenix.
Let's Icarus dive into Phoenix. There we go.
I'm not sure we need to shove the Icarus in, but
I feel like that pun's too good. I need a pun that like doesn't make any sense to do it.
Let's break.
Now that we've finished with that,
let's sun ray our way into.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was going to say let's supernova for the rebirth where we discuss a new hero. But yeah, in any case, Phoenix 5. Marco, do you want to kick us off about Phoenix 5? What makes you think of Phoenix when you think of a potentially funky position 5?
I always think of Fly Phoenix, and I swear I never see any other players play it in the 5. I like it because it hits all these key points that we keep repeating that make a support good. So in the lane, it's this somewhat tanky strength hero that has fire spirits and therefore can trade right clicks really effectively. Its damage output honestly isn't too bad. Say if you hit level 4 and you've got 2 in fire spirits, 2 in dive, you've got probably kill potential with +1/+2. So he's not a useless support that can't really output damage in the early game. And then you've got a big team fight ult, which is, I guess, always nice. It's like a kind of like a Ravage almost, and for your support to have that big an ult is probably uncommon and therefore really good. And I believe he's got a gold inbuilt talent, which helps him massively. He can probably farm okay with his spell set, because often you are seeing Phoenix as a 3, so he kind of takes those aspects of his 3 and allows him to be this greedy 5. Yeah, so his anti-utility disable helping angle isn't really that strong, but hopefully he can help win the lane sufficiently that he's not needed for that purpose. So I guess you could say he'd be a bit hero dependent. Like if there's the enemy team with loads of disables or whatnot, then maybe you're going to lean to this OP LC5 that we spoke about. But if not, and it's kind of more maybe fighty, not really disabling, he could fit in better. But yeah, I really think it's that there's talents that make him, that's the crux to make him a viable 5.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way you play the Phoenix 5, I think, is interesting. I feel like personally, when I think of Fly as a 5, I think of it tends to be matched with an AoE disable. Oh, I'm thinking primarily back when Fly was on OG, Pepe Hands. They used to run Tree Phoenix was like the classic combo that basically won Kiev Major, because Overgrowth Supernova was just so insane. I feel like I wouldn't want to see Phoenix 5 in a game in which there was no way to sort of back up a Supernova.
Yeah, you need the synergy to enable
Supernova synergy, yeah. Exactly. So that is something to consider about the Phoenix 5. And on the other hand, Kuroki, I've seen play Phoenix 5 a couple of times, and one of those games was super memorable. It was in the last TI, actually. It was in TI8 in the group stage. I can't remember who they were playing.
Oh, yeah.
He rushes Radiance.
Was that Kuroki? I remember watching
Kuroki.
That game.
It was really bizarre.
When he had a good game, yeah.
Yeah, so he just literally AFK farms a Radiance, which is really bizarre. And I'm not saying this is a way to play Phoenix 5. It's just a one-off game because they obviously thought they could get away with it and it worked out for them. But yeah, funny. That sort of goes into what Marco's saying about how it's sort of these aspects that make Phoenix a good position 3 also make them kind of can sometimes get away with doing similar things as a 5 in going into the mid game. But yeah, that was just a anecdotal observation about Kuro rushing a Rady. But yeah, main point, you want to have backup for Supernova if you're going to run a greedy position 5 Phoenix.
See, back in the day, people would play support Naga, and if the Naga had a really good start, they would just transition it to a Radiance Naga.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah.
But I say what Phoenix gives you that's special, that kind of differentiates her from, like, is it a she? I don't know, it's a bird. Genderless bird. That other heroes don't give you is percentage-based heal and damage from Sunray. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of lineups that can rip through, especially if they're heavy on strength. And I wouldn't say that you always need a backup spell for Supernova if you can place it well. It's all about if you can get it up, like kind of think of it the same way as a tombstone from an Undying. If you throw that up on a high ground, make it to where they have to walk to you and get caught out in no man's land of walking towards you or running away, that's when you know you've done a good ult, and it's you don't even necessarily have to live. It's like the amount of space and movement control you've thrown out there from just where you've placed your supernova is really big. And then also what makes the Phoenix 5 really cool is that supernova is so high impact, and usually 5s don't have that huge impact spell from a position 5. I mean, sure they have like defensive things, but I mean, Lion Finger is like a really high impact one, but not like this is a huge team fight ult that requires a response for a 5 position, which is not the norm for a 5 position hero.
If the enemy team sinks time and effort and resources into trying to kill an egg and then isn't able to, and the egg lands, stuns everyone, you're now full HP mana with all your spells available, it can very easily be
that's so
fight
insane when that happens.
It is a very, very big ultimate in that regard.
Yeah, one thing I would say about the supernova, you definitely want to survive. I mean, that's obvious to say, but I'd hesitate to say, it's okay.
Well, there's different levels of survive. There's like, if your egg dies within a half second, yeah, it's terrible. But if your egg dies at like 4.5 seconds in, better.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. A couple things also. One, to directly follow up from what Adam said about placing your egg well. This hero, Phoenix, is unbelievable around the Roche pit. And it's really, really nice to have a support that's so strong around Roche at position 5, right? All of the spells are just incredible. Dive, insanely good for vision and all that stuff. You can free vision into the Roche pit. Sunray is basically the enemy have to get out of Roche, and you can just Sunray them from like your own shrine, and they have to get out. Fire Spirits, insane AoE. You just throw it into the Roche pit when they're in there, and they have to basically walk out. And then Supernova, anywhere around Roche pit, you dive in and Supernova just outside of Roche, so they effectively can't kill it. I mean, you can go on. This hero is unbelievable around Roche. So hard to take Roche when there's a Phoenix in the game.
Fire Spirits is just good to take Roche, just like to throw on the Roche because he attacks so slow.
Yeah, for sure. And Sunray, again, are really good for taking Roche as well. You just heal your team up while they're taking it.
Can you place the egg on the Roche cave and then it's like no one can see it? Is that a thing? You know what I'm talking about? Like the horseshoe shape that Roche pit is?
On the mountains of it.
If you cast it, on the... Surely from one side, they're not going to be able to see it. Like maybe they go...
I'm not sure you could cast it in a place where it's not visible from anywhere. But you could, what I'm talking about is you can cast it outside the Roche pit, but just so like the people inside are still...
I'm just trying to think of like an insanely OP, like can you cast it on a spot to where like half, like the people outside the pit can't see it?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware. That's a one for things we learned in Dota for next episode.
Yeah, that's
if the egg was in the Roche pit and no enemy heroes in the pit, then they'd have to walk in to see it.
Really?
Yeah, because you can't see in the Roche pit without being...
Yeah, sorry, I was being sarcastic, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, how about another one?
You should have... Marco, why didn't you say that earlier in the things we learned? If you supernova in the Roche pit, you've got to walk into the Roche pit.
I don't get how we're struggling to like think about this question.
Well, no, I'm saying if you cast it on the horseshoe terrain that is the Roche pit, it's like you are on the high ground.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
People inside can't see you, people outside can't see you.
I don't think that's
possible. Then it's also made me think of, what if you comboed this with Mars, and then they can't hit into the Roche pit because you're protected by the Mars walls?
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Or they can't hit into the supernova because of the walls. That's pretty cool.
Interesting. Although is supernova... Actually, it doesn't matter, does it?
You kind of want to hit everyone with your stun, and then the Mars might zone everyone too far away.
Yeah, well, maybe you try to catch like 1 or 2 people in it, and then you hit your Fire Spirits. Yeah. Probably too hard to the combo. Seems cool, though.
Oh, a good one for griefing. The sun can be denied once it drops below 50% health. Nice.
Another great one for griefing, build Ags, and then take your carry inside the egg and then kill them.
New meta approved. This is the only reason we want to talk about Fury 5. To see rush at go Midas Ags on position 5 and then grief your carry. So yeah, Phoenix 5 sounds cool. So I hope the listeners are ready to devour some talk about Position 5 Doom, because I certainly am.
There we go.
Yeah, there, thank you. Doom 5, it's another one of those heroes similar to what Adam was saying about these chunky strength heroes being played on support. Solo's played Doom 5 a couple of times for Virtus Pro. We saw it at the Major. I think it can work. It worked for them, and they were playing against Secret. And this hero, for me, there's many reasons why it can work as a 5. Mainly just that E-Blade is so good at trading in the lane. If you've got a Stout Shield and an E-Blade, you're going to be able to man up with E-Blade and sort of then run away and basically repeat. Same sort of deal as if you're playing Doom as a 3. Works just the same as a 5. Also, you're basically going to be farmed for a 5 simply because of Devour Gold. You're not going to max the spell like you might if you were on a core. You're going to get a value point, though, so you can get creep spells because it's just so strong. It's one of the strongest value point spells in Dota because of the crazy regen and also getting the creep abilities.
Level 2 looks like uber value.
Level 2? Because
you go from 25 to 50 gold bonus. You go from 3 to 8 HP bonus regen and then slightly lower cooldown.
Yeah, Doom's one of those heroes where you can build him in all sorts of ways. I think, in the solo game, you did just get the 1 value point, but if you felt as though you could be slightly greedier in the lane was perhaps you had a stronger laning partner, then yeah, you can go for the Devour Gold for sure.
Well, the other thing is that you get the gold and you're not griefing the team by taking a bunch of farm that was available to the core. Is like, oh, I'll walk over here and take this jungle camp that nobody was going to touch anyways.
Yeah.
At minute 1, so that's nice.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to be farmed basically because of this mechanic. Solo had just shy of 500 GPM in the game that I was mentioning earlier, in which he played this 5 Doom. He had 480 GPM.
My only concern is if he would be too weak in an aggressive lane. Because if you were facing
there are much stronger laners as position 5 for sure. Yeah. But I'm saying he can function as a 5 because he does have trading ability with E-Blade.
Absolutely, the potential is there. It's also great that he's got the neutral creep spell he can use as well, and that just the aura that he could get from that, or the utilities he could get from that, can be very helpful as a kind of support role.
Yeah, the regen aura is so insane. The one that gives you the Hadoken. The Hadoken and the regen, that can be insanely good if you get that first. Like, that's bonkers regen. Another reason, it's sort of a Dota meme that Doom counters every hero, but yeah, you're a position 5 that can basically doom someone. You're always going to have extremely high impact if you can get this spell off, whether you're position 5 or 3. So that's another thing, like we were talking about earlier. Something that fits a hero's kit that makes him fit with support. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. It's having high impact spells that are going to be relevant at all stages of the game. Doom's perhaps one of the spells that are going to be top of that list. Another feather in Doom's support cap, as it were.
He does need a little bit more setup than another hero just to get off Doom, because he is slow, and there's going to be situations where you can't just walk up to somebody and doom them, and you're not going to have a blink or a shadow blade. So but that's rectified with like any stun, just any little amount of stun or slow or just something from the other team. Just make sure that you can actually cast the doom.
Yeah, you steal a mud golem and throw a stone at them, and then you can gap close.
Right, or a satyr. What was it?
Purge.
Oh gosh, the one
the harpy.
No, the one that throws the net. I don't remember.
Oh, the dark troll.
Dark Troll Summoner. Yeah. Troll Summoner. Or
Dark Troll Warlord. Sounds cool.
If you get the blink, you get that Centaur creep, and that's a 3-second stun. And then you're actually just Magnus, kind of.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Magnus. Plus 5 Doom is here to do everything you can, but better.
Yeah.
Get a drums and that fat kobold creep and just use the active and go head on to the enemy core in the fight, and you've done your purpose.
Yeah, the what's the W called?
Scorched Earth.
Scorched Earth. That is so good early. If you just run at somebody with Scorched Earth on, I mean, they're just zoned out of lane. And if you're not the one hitting creeps, it's even better.
It's that's one of the things with Doom. It's so hard to level him because Scorched Earth is really good, but then also you'll see Dooms just skip it. They'll get maybe 1 point at like level 4.
Yeah, there's merit to max every possible spell.
Yeah, it's so game dependent. And I feel like that carries on in whether you're position 3 or 5. I think as a 5, I tend to want to just get more points in E-Blade unless the lane was really good and I could maybe stretch for a second point in Devour. But yeah, all his spells are so strong and you can max all of them depending on the game.
I'd be hesitant to get too many levels in E-Blade. So my thought process being, the cooldown reduction is what you're doing it for. So it goes 16, 12, 8, 4. Say you're to get level 3 E-Blade to make it a nice 8-second cooldown. At the point you're level 5, I feel like your value added to the lane by using Infernal Blade on the enemy isn't that great, because now when you're level 5, your own position 1 is kind of a bit beefier, more self-sufficient. So would you really then want to have like a dead point in level 3 E-Blade? I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's definitely truth to what you're saying. The solo game that I've been basing some of this from that made me think of Doom as a 5. He gets he does get the 3rd point in E-Blade, but then he doesn't get the 4th point for ages.
Yeah.
So he maxes out Devour and then gets points in Scorched Earth before he comes back for that 4th point.
Does he do 113 or 203 or what was his other 2 skill points?
I think he goes 202 and then or 203, gets his ult, gets gets Devour.
Scorched Earth, yeah, for Devour.
Gets Devour and Scorched Earth sort of back and forth, and then almost the last thing he skills is his 4th point in E-Blade.
Yeah,
so agree. I guess that might have been because he felt that laning was over by the time you got that 4th spell, and then it was more important to get something like Devour to support, to have a gold income, or a Scorched Earth as more of a mid-gamey, ganking-y kind of item. They had an aggressive lineup rather than E-Blade, because getting the extra point for the cooldown doesn't particularly help you much in the mid-game if you're not. What difference does it make too much?
Yep.
So we'll maybe touch on Furion in a sec, but brief conversation on... Actually, screw that, yeah. Let's just go to Furion. Wait, actually, sorry. I just jumped the gun there. Let's teleport over to Furion.
Yikes.
There we go.
Almost missed it there. Sorry, guys.
Teleportation.
Yeah. This hero is kind of funky in one sense, but then also I feel like quite standard position 5. Although certainly didn't used to be. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been playing Dota for as long as you guys. Is Fury 5 been something for a while, or is it just a trend in the last sort of year?
I would say mostly in the last year. Classically, always a 3. I feel like I've seen it more as a mid than as 5. up until the last year.
Yeah. Marco, you're a Nature's Prophet fan. Although
big fan.
Not so much as a position 5, but nevertheless, I'm sure you'll be able to tell us about what makes Furion's kit fit with a position 5.
Okay, so the first point that a lot of people will think about, and so I'll mention, is this idea of Furion being a good lane dominator. So he uses Treants, spawns some fat, annoying Treants, and can help bully whatever lane he's in. Maybe picks up a Blightstone or an Orb of Venom if he's got that luxury, and can be very annoying and output a lot of harass. So okay, that's helpful for the support in the lane. There's an argument as to how effective this really is. My personal experience in solo ranks is that I've never felt threatened that much by Furion, and I think with sufficient creep control and just CS, you can kind of nullify this pressure. But in theory, lane domination is one facet to Furion. What I think he's more impactful on, and you'll see pro teams utilize his global potential so well because they're so well coordinated. So obviously teleporting for ganks or for, I mean, chick snipes is a huge one, but more underutilized, I think, is global teleports to another lane to maybe you don't even get a kill, but let's just get the tower at 6 minutes because I can give you 2-3 tanky treants to soak the tower and we just take it. To me, that's his biggest impact as a 5, that he can add that global potential. And then he's also good because I guess he's greedy in the sense that he can farm a little bit with his treants and therefore be a bit relevant with items going into the mid game. And then that's the way I'm seeing him as a good 5. I think he has weaknesses and isn't always played like to the most of his potential, because I think you do need team coordination and he is a bit of a team player, and then B, maybe he's not executed perfectly in the lane, but I think he's got definite potential in the 5, and you do see these guys like Notel or maybe Kuroki picking him up, and
X-Nova plays
really
a good Prophet support as well.
Who's that other one?
X-Nova plays a good...
X-Nova, yeah.
And a couple of things I like. Well, I agree totally with what you just said. Although I'd say my experience is that I'm perhaps not as successful as you as out-sustaining the Fury lane dominating. Although I totally agree with what you said, the global presence is probably the strongest point of the hero. Although having said that, I do think a lot of pros pick Fury 5. I'm thinking particularly Notel at TI. They pick this hero because it's so good in the lanes.
Have we called it Nature's Prophet once? We should probably call it Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Nature's Prophet. But yeah, a couple of things I'd say that I like, just small little things. The global presence also allows you to get deep wards for free without being scouted. I mean, it's pretty fun to TP to, one of those eyeball warding spots, or anywhere. It doesn't have to be an eyeball warding spot, but any cool deep warding spot, teleport in and place the ward and then TP out again. It's pretty fun. Feels pretty cool doing that, unless you get caught, of course. And another thing, a bit like Phoenix, although not in a different way, Nature's Prophet is really good at enabling Roche, because one, global presence, pushing out lanes, which is something you often need to condition a Roche, is pushing out lanes. So say, I'm thinking a situation where you TP to a lane, or teleport to a lane rather, not TP, push it out with treants and stuff, teleport back to Roche when your team's taking it, apply your medallion, which is the natural the natural Nature's Prophet item on the support, which helps Roche a lot. Treants to tank Roche, again, massive. That's super helpful. Prophet's really helpful hero for taking Roche. So there's just a couple of little pointers that I'd say helps Furion's kit as a position 5.
I'd definitely re-emphasize the split pushing aspect of his ult as well. So it's great for farm because you'll just clean up a lot of creep when you use Wrath of Nature, but then the fact that you can just help every lane push back in your favor from your relatively low cooldown global ultimate is, for the macro game and for the map control and all that kind of shenanigans, is so nice, so strong.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, shout out to Sprout winning games in the late game. If you get some OP Sprout on the enemy melee core.
TI Grand Final, the last game, Arme spent his entire BKB duration as a Terrorblade inside a Sprout.
It's genuinely sick control.
Pretty game losing.
Level 4 Sprout lasts ages just holding a hero in place.
Oh, and you can place it on buildings as well and they can't hit it. That's pretty weird.
Oh, yeah, that can be huge.
Yeah. Adam, I don't know if you've got anything to add. We've sort of spoken a fair bit about Prophet. Is there anything particularly you want to add or not?
Yeah, he's got great. What makes him so great as a lane dominator outside of the treants is that he's kind of like Windrunner, and the fact that they have really nice attack animations and really high base damage.
Yeah.
So it's really annoying to deal with. And then underrated aspect is that you can kind of do a Kunkka type thing where you can ferry out. You can be a global courier, so you're not taking the mid. So the mid's courier. So as opposed to Kunkka like X marking and TPing back. You can TP back to base, pick up some items for your core, and then global teleport back to lane, all in one fell swoop, which is pretty sick. And you are always going to get gold just because of how Wrath of Nature works. Even if you don't mean to, you're going to have a little bit of farm, and it's nice in that Nature's Prophet is one of those heroes that can build absolutely every item. Almost every he can go almost every item. So very versatile, whether, like you said, Stan, going the medallion, or you can go Vlad's, you can go sometimes maybe you go pipe, force staff, Yules, Vlad's, I think. And then if you need later down the line, you can be a core going like the orchid type stuff.
Yeah. First item Midas.
I wouldn't say that. And then also there's like you shove waves hard. And if you are shoving 2 of the 3 lanes, you are winning the Dota game. So from that aspect, Nature's Prophet is really nice. And then just a throwback, since this was long before Stan's time, but when I first started to play Dota back in 2013, Jungle Nature's Prophet was a thing, and you said, oh, how nice it is to global teleport onto an eyeball and drop a ward. Well, how about I tell you that you global teleport on top of an eyeball in the Radiant Jungle, and that's where you farm jungle camps.
Yeah, that's so funny.
That's what you would do, is that you had range to hit Radiant hard camp closest to the tier 2 mid. You would just TP on top of that, and you would just stack the camp and hit it with auto attacks over and over again. That's how the game used to be played.
Yikes.
I was guilty of that. And what was nice was actually there were 2 eyeballs. The Dire jungle had one too. So after you kill one camp, you just TP to the other one, and you would just repeat. It was dark times.
It wasn't even that uncommon.
It was not uncommon.
Well, I mean, sounds a bizarre, weird, and broken land, but like many things, Ice Frog's here to bring calm.
I wouldn't even say it was like it was common. It wasn't even that it
wasn't even that good, was it?
It was just in a lot of games.
Yeah,
it was standard.
Yeah, so that's Fury 5. This hero is knocking about, and I think remains to knock about as a 5. I think, as far as I'm aware, this hero still can be played as a 5. I've seen it a bit. We saw it a bit in Stockholm on a few different teams. So yeah, Fury 5's he's a fun hero as well. Like, he's a fun one to play 5. All of these heroes are quite fun to play as 5, to be honest.
We talked about
be relevant.
Sprout.
Nice.
Sorry, just to say, Sprout hard counters Weaver because Weaver doesn't build Quelling Blade. So
yeah,
outside of melee cores, it's like Weaver is the ranged core that gets destroyed the hardest by Sprout. It's basically a 6-second stun.
Yeah, it was worth mentioning. Great against Weaver. Right, final little hero. We won't spend long on this one because I haven't got a lot to say. But I don't. Oh God, I was gonna do the worst segue to this hero ever. But it's so bad. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Oh, you have to do it now.
Oh, sorry. Right, I don't know if it's a bad soul assumption to think that our listeners are familiar with this hero. It's Visage.
That was sick.
Thanks,
if
man.
You didn't say soul.
Yeah, I said soul.
No, but I don't know why we're saying the spell.
You have to say the spell, or else it's not a pun.
Yeah, it's not a pun. If I just said, I don't know if it's a bad assumption. I thought you can just say
like one word of the spell, so you're alluding to the spell.
No, did you not hear how Joe in his intros last episode was like?
They weren't puns though.
Traveling to Scotland, like.
Yeah, they weren't puns. They were just placements or something. I'm sure there's a term for it.
Should we make up another term like reverse disable for puns?
Reverse disable.
Honestly, that was
utility disable.
The Visage one.
Yeah. So yeah, Visage. Whoa! Did you just say Visage? Feels weird.
You getting a massage from Visage?
I'm gonna dismember these one day. I mean December.
Do you actually say Visage?
Visage.
How do you say Adam?
Visage.
Visage. No, yeah, I think I say Visage.
Fine. I'll live with it. Just. I haven't got a lot to say about this hero. This is a hero that has been played as a 5 in the past, quite a lot. I know, Marco, I'll come to you in a minute because you've played this hero as a 5 a bunch, not anytime recently, though. What got me thinking about this hero is basically just patch changes. I know a lot of people were super complaining about the changes to Visage, the damage change to the familiars. But if you're playing 5 Visage, you don't care too much about damage on the familiars because you're using them for stunning primarily, because obviously you're not particularly building into damage. Not that a core Visage particularly builds into damage either, to be fair. But I wanted to shout out this hero just because the kit seems to fit, other than Gravekeeper's Cloak. Basically, Grave Chill and Stone Form are enough to make this hero a very fun position 5 that I sometimes like to play in party games. And I think Visage is moving more and more towards a 5. I've just got an inkling that Ice Frog wants Visage to be a support. Marco, I don't know if you've got anything to say about Visage 5, because I haven't.
I've got some things to say, but I think my credibility, looking at my Dota buff, I don't know if it's quite there. So in the last 4 years, I've played Visage twice. However, I am an expert on support Visage. The reason I like the hero and think it could fit into a 5 is that Soul Assumption is a big damage output spell. And so I feel like you can just go trade, go neutral in lanes. Like, you don't need to do anything crazy fancy or anything. You just need to just do standard support things, like a little bit of harass here and there, soak a little bit of damage. Or if you can get a big Soul Assumption off in some little skirmish, it's pretty strong. And then I just feel like you hit 6 and you're playing 5 and you're picking up all the support items. You're maybe not getting that much farm, but you've got the potential to farm with familiars. You've got the potential to split push very well, semi-globally, i.e. you can be one place and they be over somewhere else pushing. Then in fights, you've got, if you can micro well enough, you can do pretty sick lockdown, pretty sick damage output, slows coming in there. I like him as an aggressive position 5, and I think if you can play him, you can get work done, make kills happen. People don't really know what this... I mean, they know what he does, but like, he's not like a common hero that you can understand how much damage output he's going to do or whatnot. I don't know. I've not seen him in years, but
it's definitely a shout from left field for me.
Yeah,
I just sort of thought of it while we were thinking about heroes. I just think together, Grave Chill is like an anti-carry spell with pretty strong attack speed drain, decent, great for trading in the lane as well, and obviously Stone Form. I just think those two things together seem pretty strong. And like you say, Soul Assumption's not to be ignored as well.
I think he can do massive damage output in fights.
Yeah,
he's not doing super hard disabling, anti-enabling kind of utility provision, but he can do serious damage in my eyes. When you get Medallion, familiars are starting to hit decently hard. That helps your team hit harder. Soul Assumption in fights has got such low cooldown that he loves a skirmish. You can farm with this hero, which I think is one of the big points of how position 5s can be good, is that they've got the tool set to get a bit of gold on them. You can split push decently. I'm a fan of the hero.
Yep.
He's quite hard to play, but he's got potential.
Adam, I don't know if you want to indulge in this sort of bizarre drive-by shout-out to Visage that I've given. I mean, he's not a great fight. I just want to shout
I'm unconvinced. I just think he needs a lot of levels. That's what I'm worried about. But Grave Chill's great in lane. Soul Assumption has always been super long range. I mean, position 5 Visage was like, that was what it was, man. Back in the day, like 4-5 years ago. It was like a terror of the tri lanes, because try v try, he would get like max Soul Assumption charge shots on like a huge or such a short cooldown. It was so much damage.
Yeah.
But I mean, you definitely won't be going Gravekeepers, and I'm just worried that the level 6 version of the birds are just so bad. Like from a damage standpoint, so low damage now. I don't know if you want a support that would take to level 12 to become scary, but I do think the first 2 spells are very nice from a support standpoint.
Yeah. So that's basically Visage. I just wanted to shout Visage out. Cool. One of my favorite hero models, by the way. I love the Visage's hero model. It's so cool. Weird flying dragon gargoyle thing with cool little chain things that he's holding. Very cool.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Has if either of you got anything to add about what we've been talking about today? I feel like we've hit some funky 5s just as we intended.
Yeah, these are fun heroes to see and play in the 5. I'm genuinely very interested in LC5.
Yep.
I'm just thinking, do I have the balls to force it out in a solo rank?
I can answer that question for you.
No. What? No.
Yeah.
No. Party games. Inflict it on your party games first.
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for joining us for another game. I didn't even mention it's episode 17, so I will now. The 17th edition of New Meta is done and dusted. As always, I'll leave the Discord description. Wait, no. I'll leave the Discord link in the description. So join if you choose. In-house games every Wednesday. So if you're interested in that, join as well. Not much else to say. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again on Friday. This has been a special Tuesday edition. You won't get another one for 2 weeks. So savor these last few seconds before the inevitable final whistle. Thanks to Marco and Adam once again, and see you again soon, listener. Bye.
GG's. Bye.